Yeah, thanks so much. Wonderful to be on the call. So yeah, my name's Edward Keelan. I am a partner with Octopus Ventures. So we are one of the most active venture capital firms in Europe. We are a B Corp, and I look after a fund which is about 500 million in size and is focused on growth stage B2B software. So please do get in contact if you fit that mandate. And I've been at Octopus for about 16 years, worked in investing for quite a bit of time. So hopefully there's a few nuggets that I can share. But yeah, thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much, Edward. Let's go to Rob, please.
Thanks, Anton. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rob Garrett. I own my own private investment and advisory firm, which I started 10 years ago. It's called Hussar Ventures. Started it in Dubai and operate out of Dubai and Singapore. And since last April, the UK, which I moved back to after 12 years across the Middle East and Asia. I've spent 15 years working in, with, and for ultra high net worth families, and today have a range of direct SPV style investments alongside those families and entrepreneurs, as well as being a partner in various investment structures founded by those families and entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much for that, Rob. And I believe the next one was, just kind of lost it now, but I think it was John, then Rich, and then Oscar. Jonathan?
Hi, I'm John. I am a partner at Upside Down VC. Sector agnostic, early stage investor focused on friends and family rounds.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Richard?
Hi, Rich here. I am a exited founder from a startup. It's now a few chapters ago, actually, in Australia, Think Group Australia. We exited, built that to a 50 mil turnover. I now run London FI Founder Institute, one of the biggest accelerators. We've graduated hundreds of tech founders through that, sector agnostic as well. Many of whom have successfully gone on to grow to and get funding. Advisory to numerous startups in the UK and various things in the mentoring side of startups. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you very much, Richard. And last but not least, Oscar, please. Welcome to our stage, Oscar.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Oscar Hoare. I'm English. I'm based in London. I am a principal at Edenred Ventures. We have a European focus on B2B SaaS, really seed and Series A, check size between €500,000 and 5 million. We manage around 200 million euros, and our four kind of core verticals, if you like, are future of work, everything from benefits, mental health, workforce management, even nutrition. Now we're looking at mobility, but that's really transition or EV transition, retail tech, and finally we are very interested in fintech, specifically corporate payments. So if anyone is interested in either of those four verticals, please give me a shout.
Well, thank you very much to all five of you. I really appreciate your time with us today. This sounds like it's going to be an amazing session. Now, it's our 132nd session. We've had over 270,000 people join us since we've started this. Nevertheless, we've played about with platforms lately. So as you can tell, I think we can use all the help we can get. If you find any value in this, please do share it with your other platforms in terms of your network on social media. On the other hand, none of this would have happened without the panelists that we have here. So if the panelists would like to drop their LinkedIn on the chat here for people to follow you there, that would be great. And on the other hand, for those of you that are tuning in via the live streams, please do remember that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there. And I can already see my phone pinging from messages on LinkedIn and Instagram and so on. But please be aware that unfortunately we can't monitor that. So you need to join us here interactively on Microsoft Teams. There's two ways you can do that. One, by clicking on the links. Most of those live streams, not most, all of them, so whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook or Instagram, should have the link. But if not, then just go to our website, startup-to-scaleup.club, find today's session, which is Startup Fundraising Q&A 132, and then click on it, click join, quick registration. You then get an email with a link to join us directly here. For those of you that are here and those of you that will come here, The way to ask questions is quite simple. You type your question in the chat room first. We then give you the mic in the same order that you type the question in, and then you can ask our panelists. Now, we're only going to be here for the next 47 minutes, and believe you me, that goes much faster than we can possibly prepare for. So don't leave it for last minute. On the other hand, just a reminder, if your questions are not on fundraising, and by the way, in terms of fundraising, they could be on anything to do with fundraising, whether it's pitch decks, the right time to reach out to an investor, how much to ask for, how do you prepare for due diligence, maybe which investors you should go to, equity, exits, valuations, and all that jazz. There is no right or wrong. Well, there are no wrong questions to start with, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. We've got an amazing panel today, so I wouldn't let that go to waste. On the other hand, if your questions are on other matters, please be aware that we run 6 regular events: Monday's Talent, Tuesday's Product and Tech, Wednesday's Growth, Thursdays, as you can see today, Fundraising, second Friday of the month, UK Startup Law, and third Friday of the month, UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup-to-scaleup.com. Actually, when you're there, you might want to join our WhatsApp community, and there's an icon on that top and bottom of the site. You click on that and you can join us. Also, our Startup of the Month campaign or competition is open, and if you want to apply, you'll get featured in all our sessions, in all the events that we run in April. I believe that's 12 or 13 of them, and hopefully that will give you exposure to the right people. But without further ado, just before we go on to the questions, it might be a good idea to have some one do and one don't, and try to keep it under a minute, please, gentlemen. From you, when it comes to early stage fundraising, what would you say it's a big do and a big don't? This time we'll start from Oscar, we then go to Rich, John, Rob, and last but not least, Edward, please.
Okay, so key point. Do be able to explain the concept and vision of your product in really straightforward, simple terms. Do not underestimate how important your understanding of the financials are. We get so often, founders think they can kind of blasé their way through. We require real clear understanding of every single line of the P&L. You would not give somebody the keys to a Ferrari if they did not know how to drive. Therefore, we will not give somebody 3, 4, 5 million if they are not really clear on the financials. So do not underestimate how important it is you know your financials.
Good ones. Thank you very much, Oscar. Rich?
Yeah, really good points. I'm having to U-turn because I was saying something similar. Okay, do understand what is your secret sauce as compared to the other main players offering to solve a similar product offering that will solve a similar problem. So what's your differentiation, basically? And don't say no one else is doing this, because we hear that quite a lot, and there's always some version that someone else is doing. So understand how you are different.
Hey, John?
Do keep the customers number one. Don't chase fundraising unnecessarily.
Thank you, Rob.
Do ask for advice over capital when you engage with any investors, because you're more likely to be given capital, and when you ask for capital, you're more likely to be given advice you don't want. And don't send blind pitch emails to people without building any form of rapport.
Thank you. Last but not least, Edward, please.
Yeah, always hard to go last on these sort of questions, just because such good answers beforehand. But I'll give it my best go. I'm going to start with the don'ts. So my first don't is obviously don't get too disheartened when you don't get rejections. So most investors will have an investment strategy and an investment mandate that they need to invest against. So chances are that you won't get there straight away with that first person. And I would say that, you know, on the do side, build a list of 20 investors that you really want to contact, and actually don't contact them first. Contact people that you maybe not perfect for you, but that you can learn from and that you can keep adapting your deck for. And then when you get to those sort of 20, try and get a nice warm lead to actually bring you into those 20 investors that you think are absolutely perfect for your company. So you've got to do that research. So yeah, I've probably got lots more. I'll leave it there for now.
Well, thank you very much for that, gentlemen. We now have, 42 minutes to go. That means we can only go through a few questions. So if you've got any, type it in the chat now, please. If you're following us via the live streams, join us here interactively on Microsoft Teams, because we can't monitor your questions there. So there's a link on all of those live streams, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. But if you can't access that, just go to our website, StartUP2ScaleUp.club. Look for today's session, which is Startup Fundraising Q&A 132. And I think the next one can go on to Becca. Becca, are you able to talk?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very good. So
okay.
Please introduce yourself and fire away with the question you've put there. Becca is the co-founder of our Startup of the Month for March 25. And as you can see, for the others who want to apply for April 25, you'll get priority on questions as well for that month, whoever wins. Take it away, please, Becca.
Okay.
So a quick introduction first and then question.
Okay, so yes, so I'm Becca from 36 Plus Productions, and our product is Reggae Calm, and we are at kind of startup stage very much. We've been asked to provide an investor pack with projected turnover, among other things, and we have various ideas for getting customers. One is a presence at the summer reggae festivals, with a team of 10 salespeople approaching roughly 7,000 people over 7 days, and ourselves in a tent with branded merchandise, etc. How many subscriptions do you think we might realistically be able to achieve? More or less than 5%, I'm wondering. We'd also welcome, at this point, very much, general advice about compiling a simple investment pack and making it attractive to investors.
Thank you very much, Becca. We will leave the question for how many people you might get for the growth room, which luckily Pauline did join yesterday and asked. So if that's okay with you, today we'll deal with the investment pack. Can I ask you, before I give the floor to the investors, what do you mean by investor pack? Is that because you want to get people that you'll meet at this festival to invest, or is it because you want to go to investors and have an investor pack?
We've had an approach from an investor, so they've asked for an investment pack with.
I hear you. Fair enough. That's very good. Okay, so 1 minute each. What basically an investor pack is mainly and mostly known as a pitch deck, but when they say an investor pack, they may be asking for a bit more, but I will not take the floor. So I will start with Edwards. Let me see. We will start with Edwards, Rob, John, Rich, and Oscar. Your minute of glory starts now, Mr. Keelan.
Yeah, thanks so much. Obviously, huge topic, and I'll just quickly plug my LinkedIn where I put a post around this topic yesterday. But yeah, some things that I would say about the investor pack. First of all, don't put too much in there. Keep it punchy, keep it simple. So, what is the problem that you are solving for? Make that very much your problem, and then why have you got a solution that really works? I think with a business like yours, you really have to try and bring out what the market size is. Like, what is the true market opportunity here? Is it a true investable proposition, or should it be more of an organic kind of growth type company? And then I'd be looking also at what they call the unit economics. So like, how much do you make when you sell something? So yeah, keep it punchy. Make sure that you cover the market size, and don't forget to put some unit economics showing how you actually make your money.
Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Yeah, so on to me. I mean, I see a lot of conversations through a wide range of communities, including this one, about this topic. It's an often talked about one. Taking on Edward's point about the market sizing, I think one of the things that's resonated with me, and I'm by no means a particular expert, and I think it's a very subjective area, but one of the things that I've seen, which a lot of people sided with, is addressing your market from the bottom up as well as top down, or instead of top down. So it can be quite easy to get carried away with, I think in your introduction, you talked about this is a 4.5 billion size market. Can't remember which denomination of currency we were talking about there. But you could also talk about, how are we going to address our first customer? How are we then going to get to 10 customers? What is the initial value? And then what's the lifetime value of 10 customers, then 100 customers, then 1,000 customers? Because if you can demonstrate to anyone that you're talking to as a potential investor of how you're going to get to scale and where your plan is by addressing that financially as well, to talk about a point that was raised previously, and forgive me, I can't remember who said it, but being all over your potential numbers, that will demonstrate that you've put some real thought into how to do that. Because saying that you can address a 4.5 billion market is all well and good, but actually getting scale and getting traction in that market is probably the most significant thing. And how you address that in your pitch deck is quite important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
Thank you very much, Rob.
Yeah, sorry, can I just say we're kind of going for new people who aren't really part of the market at the moment, really, who are going to be more attracted to music than just meditation without music, if that makes sense.
Rob, anything on that?
Look, it makes perfect sense that you're going to try and convert people and bring them to a love of reggae, a love of meditation. But if you can put some flesh on the bones and taking everything that Edward said, which is valid, without making it too long, you want to try and keep your initial pitch deck that gets in front of people to no more, I would say, than 6 to 10 slides. And just remember, I mean, certainly the world that I have worked in, quite often, this may be less the case for venture capitalists who have raised funds and are working professionally on it. But if you're getting in front of super angels, ultra high net worth, they're quite often reading this material, getting in and out of a car, being driven to a next meeting, getting in and out of a private jet, and you'll get 30 seconds of attention. And if you can get that message across of why you have a proposition that from the bottom up, you're going to get a new consumer to love it, and then how you're going to grow, that's possibly the most important message you're going to get across, because that will then lead to the next conversation.
Yeah, I think we are going for a bottom-up approach, actually. So yeah, so that's good.
Thank you very much, Becca. Let's see who we've got next. We've got Rich, and then we've got John. Sorry, Jonathan, then Rich, then Oscar. Your minute of glory starts now, Jonathan.
So just to clarify, the question was about what to include in an investor pack. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find the email as well. I'll look for the email.
Yeah, I think I would just include a deck to begin with, and then anything extra beyond a deck should go in some sort of data room, which then would include other things such as projected financials and list of traction and pipeline of customers and things like that. And then I think, just alluding to everybody else, the most important thing to include is what's your realistic clearest path to upside. And then if you're able to if you're able to demonstrate that through your materials, then that helps your chances a lot.
Thank you very much, John. And now we've got to Richard and then Oscar, please.
Hi, Becca. First of all, I'd like to say I really like what you're trying to achieve here. I think it's exceptional. I love working with founders who are trying to solve problems that are very much a community related and a benefit in this sense. But I'm just going to take a slightly different angle here. For me, whilst have you heard of any of the big charities doing music therapy, like Nordoff and Robbins? There's a few of them around. So I think there's something here. There's something that says, if these charities, they're quite large. I know the Nordoff and Robbins charity is quite a big charity, and they're quite successful and they've got proven. They've got proof of music being therapeutic for their various clients. So for me, I would want, in your investor deck, some sort of proof of concept. I know there's loads of other areas, and the guys that have been talking so far have been focusing on your numbers and how you get to scale, which is absolutely correct. But for me, I would strip this question back to a bit of the basics on the proof of concept and how or why you believe that this is an alternative to all the health apps that are out there. And there are a number of them. Some have come and gone. A lot of them are successful, and just demonstrate the need that people will want to turn to music therapy. And I actually think, I'm just going to put this on the table for you, I actually think you're narrowing your opportunity by just focusing on reggae music. I actually think there's something in music therapy, generally speaking, not just reggae. Because look, frankly speaking, I'm not a massive fan of reggae music. Don't hold a gun to my head because of that. But are you narrowing the opportunity here because you've chosen reggae music? It might be the first, the start of this product. And then you move into other music, etc. Music therapy is a thing. I think you've got something, is what I'm saying. But I actually think, for me, you'd need to really demonstrate that, this is something the audience wants. And because I would question that. And until I saw that proof of concept that you're able to demonstrate that in the deck. And that might be, hey, we've gone to these festivals, we've had all these sign-ups to your website or whatever it is, your social pages. Start demonstrating that there is a need in the market for this type of therapy and this alternative music therapy. That's where I would be focused.
Thank you very much, Rich.
Fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you. And last but not least, we've got Oscar, please.
Okay, so I would be, number one, I would be incredibly clear about the problem you are solving. That's what I would talk about first. And then I would try and evidence the credibility that reggae music can really fix or enhance your mental health, because there are many ways we see in the market now of fixing mental health, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise, whatever it is, but try and give credibility to your thesis that reggae music makes any difference to how I feel on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. Number one. Number two, I would have a very clear ask for the investors. What are you asking for? How much money do you want? What are you going to do with it? And you can give an indicative view of valuation. I'd be really, really clear in your deck up front, what are you asking for? And the third thing, I would like to say that really pertains to the point around a lot of these people will be looking at it on their mobile, getting out of a car, very rushed, in a lift. I would put up front an executive summary, a killer, a one-page upfront executive summary with all the things on it that you can send as well. So on a page, you need an exec summary of everything. That's the killer slide.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you. Hope that helped, Becca. If I can recap and maybe add a little bit as well, this is what I would do. I would have a few different pitches, Becca. I'd have a 1-sentence pitch, a 100 words pitch, a 1-page pitch, a 3-page pitch and a pitch deck that the gentlemen here have mentioned, that is, try to keep it to around 10 pages, not more. Even if you go 1 or 2 pages extra, it's not the end of the world, but try to condense it down to 10 pages. And then I would also have, for second or sort of maybe meetings and so on, I would have what they call a data room, where you literally have everything that is related to this business. You have it in that data room, and you only give it to people that you're going to have meetings with, or things like that, not to everybody else. And I would use these different pitches depending on how you meet people. In terms of what you do, the chaps here have mentioned some brilliant points. You know, focus on why this, why you, what's in it for them. And in terms of the money, have a clear ask. And what I would think is, think of it, what you need to do for the next 2 years and how much money you need for that. I wouldn't worry, although I do take Oscar's point in terms of valuation, but personally, I'm not a fan of worrying about that, because when it comes to valuations, guess what? The one who's stronger in that deal will end up kind of making a point about what a valuation is. And it's not a science, but actually it's an art. So focus on those. I think a few of the chaps mentioned, you know, like going to this festival, get people to sign up, or maybe speak to, and I understand you have spoken, I think, to some doctors and universities, get these scientists to write letters and things like that. Maybe find a partnership, you know, I don't know, just for argument's sake, somebody who does kind of mental health therapy that says, I will use this once it's ready. That kind of stuff will strengthen your position, both in getting the money, but also getting a better deal. And by the way, again, very well done on what you've achieved so far. And please keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Best of luck. Thank you very much. So, a quick reset of the conversation.
Oh.
No, my fault. I muted myself. Me and my fat thumb. So, a quick reset of the conversation. Then we'll go on to Moise, who's asked a question. Let me see if Moise is here. I think I have unmuted him. Oh, poor fella, he's not here. Oh, yeah, he's here. So this is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 130-second session. If you're tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that we're unfortunately unable to monitor your questions there. So you would need to join us here directly and interactively on Microsoft Teams. You can do that either by clicking on the links that I've posted on all those live streams, or you can go to startup-to-scaleup.club. Look for today's session, which is Startup Fundraising Q&A 132, and then click join, quick registration. You've got a link. Use that link to join us. Once you're here, you can then type your question in the chat, and then we'll give you the mic. There are no wrong or right questions for that matter. There's no need to be shy, because it's a learning curve for us all. Once you're here, just type the question. By the way, we're only going to be here for the next 24 minutes, so perhaps we might have another question or two after that, so don't leave it for too late. On the other hand, as you can see on the screen, hopefully, we run 6 regular sessions: Monday's Talent, Tuesday's Product and Tech, Wednesday's Growth, Thursday's Fundraising, second Friday of the month, Startup Legal UK, that is, third Friday, UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup-to-scaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, join us on WhatsApp, because you'll get alerts to all future sessions, and you'll also be able to join the community and be part of this community of founders, investors, and operators. On the other hand, don't forget to apply for Startup of the Month campaign or competition, where you'll be featured in all the sessions throughout April and hopefully get the right exposure that you need. Now, without further ado, Moise, can you hear us? Are you able to talk? Moise? Tell you what, Moise, let me make you a presenter, because for some reason, I think you might be on some kind of, what's it called? Perhaps it's the browser that you're using that doesn't let you. Now you should be able to talk. Can you hear us now, Moise?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So with fundraising, would having a co-founder with skills, different skills, significantly increase our chance for investment? What if like we can show strong traction, a strong advisory board? Will that be sufficient for like a solo founder?
That's a very good question, and thank you very much for that. I would like our panelists to take 1 minute each to answer this question. This time, what we'll do is we will start with Rob, then Rich, then Oscar, then Edwards. Oh, sorry, Rob, Rich, John, Oscar, and then Edward. Rob?
This is a very subjective question, and I think coming back to the point that was made earlier, again, forgive me, I'm not keeping notes, so I don't know who made this statement, but it comes down to the mandate of the investor. Now, obviously, that's harder to ascertain if you are talking directly to ultimate beneficial owners of capital, i.e. ultra high net worth individuals, super angels, and the like. But I think do your research. So someone else also raised the point about having a list of 20 investors that you want to reach out to who be the ultimate investor. As a sort of generalism, I think that co-founder teams are probably easier for people to get their head round, but there are plenty of examples of single founders who have done fabulously well, and that single founder is going to have to be a superstar at building teams, at scaling, and eventually will be bringing in later stage co-founders or later stage seniors into the team. But it comes down to, is the investor you're talking to prepared to back single founders? Have they done it in the past? That would be the key question to ascertain before you go too far down the road and you spend days or weeks. But any investor worth their salt will probably tell you pretty quickly, I can only back you if you have a co-founder. So that will also help you ascertain that.
Thank you very much. Who we got next? We've got Oscar, please.
Sure. I mean, I think there are examples of, as we said, brilliant single founders that build a product and can raise lots of money, and examples of combination as well. So I don't think there's any one rule. Your question was, is it advantageous to have a kind of co-founder? I would say not necessarily. Specifically, if you are as a single founder, if you have a great track record, maybe you're a second-time founder, if you're very well connected. Another good point, if you are a single founder, is investors love it when founders put their own money into the company. So it's great if you can demonstrate you put in 200, 300, 400K. We've even got one company at Series A level, the founders put in 2.9 million of his own money. So that is a really strong indication of a single founder's dedication. So I would say the answer there's no right rule. Examples of both can be successful.
Thank you very much for that, Oscar. Who we got next? We've got Rich, please.
Sorry, my connection cut out, but from the responses, I'm gauging the question. Moyes probably knows my response to this because we chatted earlier today in some office hours. But I would just reiterate that, for me, it really does depend on the founders, the stage of the startup. So at this very early stage where you're at, I think it's fine to be a solo founder. As the others have pointed out, we've seen many successful solo founders receive funding. It will depend on the investor, of course, so do your research before approaching them. But in this early stage, it would be ideal for you to still surround yourself with individuals that will fill in the gaps of your skill set. So we talked about that. Where are you? What are you good at? Where do you need help? Which areas? Is it growth, marketing? Is it financial, legal? Whatever it is, and bring in those people as either partners, advisors, and at least start your team that way at this early stage.
Thanks, Rich. John?
Yeah, the difference between minimum acceptable and whether or not you'll get investment is like two completely different things. There is no minimum acceptable, but in terms of like whether or not you're competitive enough to get investment really determines on how does your value proposition stack up against a very big deck of a big stack of decks that every angel investor or VC receives, and you just have to make sure that you show yourself as competitive as possible in that scenario to stand a higher chance.
Good point. Last but not least, Edward, please.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's been said, I think, and it does depend. So I think I'd probably tackle the question a slightly different way. Sorry to be a politician on this one, but I'll rephrase the question you asked, which is really, it's less about whether it's a co-founder, but whether you're the right person to solve the problem that needs to be solved or that you're looking at. So, for example, if you've decided to build the next fleet of private aircraft, like, why are you that person to build that private aircraft or whatever it might be? And therefore, you might need a co-founder because you don't have necessarily the skills that make you the right person to solve the problem on your own. As has been discussed, if you get traction and you've sort of proven it out, then it's much easier to show that you are the right person to solve the problem without anybody else being involved. So I sort of think less about whether a founder or a co-founder is a good thing, because they can both come with benefits and problems, and more about whether the team that is in place and that team is committed to solving the problem is the right one.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Moise, I'm going to tell you a bit of a morbid and vulgar joke that I heard many, many moons ago when I made my first introduction of a startup to a VC. Things were, by the way, much stricter back then. VCs didn't give as much money as they do nowadays. And they felt like gods on Mount of Olympus, which they still do, but not as much as they used back then. Anyway, one of the first things that he told me is, look, what happens if your mate gets run over by a bus tomorrow? What happens to our money? So I think it was Jonathan who last mentioned that, it's not impossible. Actually, there's been research where it's found that unicorns are mainly founded by solo founders, but that also means that many, if not all of them, have actually had previous experience as founders, or they had connections and so on. So the point is, it's about following that sort of route or path of least resistance, if that makes sense. I hope you found that helpful, Moise.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, buddy, and best of luck. Right here, we've got 14 minutes to go. There's a lot of questions that have been sent in. If there's any questions that anybody wants to ask now, please feel free to do that, because I think we might only have time for one, maybe maximum two questions. If not, I'll go with the question that was sent in to us. I'm going to put that in the chat here for my panelists to read it, but I will then read it out loud for those of you that are tuning in via the live stream. So this is a carbon footprint tracker for consumer goods in London. They're at seed stage. Okay, so they've come through our Grow London partnership. We've built a carbon footprint tracker for consumer goods, but lack investor contacts to begin meaningful outreach. What UK networks or events such as Green Angels Syndicate or Impact Founded Pitch Days could facilitate warm introductions for climate tech? Additionally, should we focus on impact accelerator programs that offer curated investor introductions, or are there other avenues specifically tailored to climate-oriented ventures that are worth exploring? Okay, that's a decent question. maybe we can start first with the accelerator in the room today. Where is Rich? So maybe we can start with Rich. Then we can go on to Edward, Jonathan, Oscar, and Rob. Rich, Edward, Jonathan, Oscar, and Rob. Take it away, please, fellas. 1 minute each.
Look, I'm probably coming at this slightly different to what the founder's wanting to ask. You know, I'm not a climate expert, so I don't know the events and places to go and hang out, and you know, I'm sure they can be easily found. I'd be wanting to look at more of this, what's this problem we're solving and who it's for. So the carbon footprint tracker, do I assume it's, do we have the founder in the room? Is it for corporates?
No, it's not in the room, but my understanding is for corporates, because I have heard them pitch before, and they said that they were focusing on B2B.
Yeah, I mean, we had a founder solving this problem a couple of cohorts ago, and he's still progressing. I was just wondering if it was the same founder, but you know, we worked on that with him, and you know, essentially, it was looking at why corporates need this tracker. Like, what value is this sort of product bringing them? You know, why essentially does it need to exist? And you know, I know this. We set up a few interviews with some corporates with this founder, and you know, we really struggled to find, you know, it ended up being like a yeah, it's a nice to have product. It was something that, you know, they did think about, but essentially the pain point wasn't big enough. So I would come back to, why is this founder launching this product? What do they think? Or, you know, is there something that we've missed in terms of a pain point for these corporates? We know that it's regulated. Corporates have to, you know, I guess the regulation for corporates is there, but they seem to be managing it without having to have such a product, a tracker. So I'm sort of really coming at it at this angle. I'd question, you know, the need for such product and what's different about this, that, you know, there are many founders that have come forward to try to launch such products, and so far I haven't seen anything that has really stood out. So I'm not sure if that's really giving much value to the question here, but yeah, you know,
I hear.
No
worries.
That's my angle.
Thank you, Rich. Edward?
Yeah, it's a risk of becoming overly negative, but I would agree that this is a well-trodden startup space at the moment. So really understanding the differentiation is probably my key thing, because you know, truth be told, carbon trackers, it appears to have been something that a lot of people have tried to tackle, and there's never been that much pull from the customers ultimately. So if you are at seed stage, my first recommendation would be, can you raise funds from your own network that give you enough to start to show traction and show that there's some form of product market fit? Because without that, I think you're going to find both impact funds and other investors extremely skeptical, just because it's one of those things that we, you know, see quite a lot of. That isn't, you know, meant to be discouraging, because if you truly believe you've got something there that is different, something there that people really need. But I think you're going to find that investors want to really show traction, and that there's that pull. There is the BVCA, actually, so the British Venture Capital Association. I'll just share a link. Has quite a lot of useful resources around who the kind of impact investors are across Europe, that you can dig into and do a bit of research into as well. But yeah, but good luck with moving forward on it.
Sounds like you'll need it. John?
Yeah, so agree with what everyone else said about carbon trackers and stuff like that, in terms of it being a tougher space to invest in. But I think, solely speaking, from the relationship building part, because chances are you could make a smart pivot or something like that, and then they'll look at you as an individual, and if you're an impressive individual, then that might swing things in your favor. Yeah, so in terms of warm, I like relaxed happy hours and panels. as long as you're not overly pitching at people's faces and building relationships that way, and then doing things to just, asking for advice, then I think that gets you in like good graces. And then in terms of cold, I think I like some of OpenVC's email and LinkedIn cold outreach templates, with like a simple few lines, sort of like, my name is such and such, we've built this, we've had this amount of traction, we have this amount of market size, open to a chat type of situation. And that's probably the best way, solely from a relationship building angle. But make sure you have a solid proposition first.
Thank you very much, John. I think it was Oscar, and then Rob, please.
So in terms of the quality of the outreach, one thing that is really powerful and really easy is whack your request into Perplexity. Whack it into Perplexity or ChatGPT. And I have actually done that just now. And if you go into Perplexity and ask for leading climate tech funds in London with a focus on a seed stage, it gives you really nice examples. And then I follow up on Perplexity and which are the best accelerators or incubators. And it gives a really nice example of greenhouse, sustainable ventures, breathable cities, where they focus, what their thesis is, what the benefits of partnershiping with them are. So use tools available to you that are free. Be brave on a cold outreach, because there are analysts and associates that are monitoring these mailboxes, and they are desperate to boost their careers by finding a winner. And if they think that carbon trackers are going to be a winner, they will absolutely take your email, take your call, and have a conversation. And finally, I will just reiterate that there are many players in this space already. We must have looked at 15 over the last year or two in Europe. They are very difficult to scale. And can anyone in the room name one unicorn in this carbon tracker space? I don't know if we can. It's a very, very difficult space. So good luck, and hope you can find the niche.
Thank you very much for that. And last but not least, Rob, please.
I think not to make you too despondent after the various answers, but I think a lot of the speakers have rounded out that this is quite a difficult space. So I'm going to make my answer more generic, which is that generally, if you are looking to build a business, one of the most effective ways that you can go about your initial approach to rounding out whether you have a valid solution to a problem, whether you can get to product market fit, is to potentially build your own community around it, to seek the advice that I highlighted at the top of the hour, rather than asking for money. So if you can get 10, 12, 15 people who are in the space, who are potential customers, who are potential investors, and offer them some value add in some way, which is you are all going to meet each other and you can become customers or suppliers of one another. And all I am seeking in return is your feedback and advice in a forum. That could be quite a limited cost. You could do that for possibly buying them all a drink in a unique forum, and you'll quickly get to an answer on whether you really do have something in a space that can be built. But yes, I mean, certainly the venture capitalists are looking for a scalable 10x $1 billion or £1 billion minimum market size opportunity. And as various of the previous speakers have highlighted, this is a complex, well-served space, and no one I think that I've seen has quite cracked it yet. But if you build your community first, that may help you inform your first pivot before you even get to that stage.
Thank you very much. And I'll quickly add two things. Number one, in terms of leads, search online, look for people that actually are sort of kind of influencers or have a large following online. Look at Innovate UK and a few other similar government sponsored or government actual organizations. And in terms of how to do this, as most panelists here have said, it's quite a tough field to do well. And one of the main or most impactful advices I've received is that if you build a startup, build it for one company. Start with one client in mind. What I would do here is make a list, maybe 100 potential people that you could speak to pick their brains on this. And then, guess what? If you build it with them in mind, you can go back to them and perhaps get, if nothing else, at least an LOI, a letter of intent. But ideally, you might even get them to either invest as a trade investment or maybe use it and pay you for it. We've only got 3 minutes, but I really want to go through this question. Whoever can stay, please let's keep it short in terms of the answers so that everyone can quickly ask. But I'll read it out loud. It's in the chat. I'll read it out loud for those of you that are listening via the live stream. So this is a health and wellness platform for employee benefits. She's based in London. They're at seed stage. And she goes on to say, our current situation is that we're seeking seed funding, but investors are requesting super voting shares and liquidation preferences. The question I have for your panel is that our wellness platform for employee benefits is raising a seed round, and some investors want super voting shares alongside a 1.5 liquidation preference. What are the industry standards in the UK regarding super voting shares, and how should we balance investor expectations with founder control? Could we propose a 1x liquidation preference with standard voting rights to maintain founder influence? So I will start with Edward. We will then go to Oscar. Then we will go to Jonathan. And then we will go to Rob. If anybody needs to dash out, feel free to do that too. So Edward, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, these are big questions. I've just popped on a BVCA, British Venture Capital Association model term sheet, but you can probably ask the question ChatGPT as well, and we'll get a good answer. I mean, you know, as always with these things, it depends. The standard at the stage you're talking about would be a 1x non-participating preference, but if you want a high valuation, then maybe they said, well, if you want this big valuation, then fine, but we want more. In terms of the control, super voting shares at this stage, I think would be quite unusual. Actually, that would be a bit of a warning sign at the stage to me that the investor wanted to take over your company or could control your company. I wouldn't be giving that away too easily. Would be my advice. Usually, so I would say normally the investor should get control through consent rights. They're not allowing you to do things like, you know, raising money ahead of them or changing the voting rights of the shares or things like that. But to actually from day one to try and control would be unusual.
Here, thank you very much for that. I think it was Oscar, and then Rob, please.
Sure. So I think these are really tough terms to put on the table. I have sympathy with you, and I'm going to touch on the liquid pref point. 1.5 at seed is pretty aggressive, and I would worry that it will set a precedent for later investors, because the next round of investors are also going to want 1.5, and it will mean that your share of the pie gets eaten very, very quickly. So I would really try and push back on that. Another reason people do it, Ed mentioned that one is they think your valuation is too high. Another one is possibly they don't quite believe in you, and therefore they are protecting themselves with some downside protection. Hence, they want the 1.5. Maybe you've got very little runway, maybe your burn's too high, but it's kind of downside protection for them. But I think that's pretty aggressive. And secondly, I would say this is a kind of space we are interested in. I'm very happy to have a chat. Please ping me on LinkedIn and we can have a chat. And I'm definitely happy to look through your deck and have a conversation about it. So I'm happy to help you out on this one specifically.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Rob, please.
Look, I am probably not best placed to comment on this, just because the way that we tend to invest is as a follower syndicate to a lead investor who generally set the terms. We're not looking to set terms. As a comment, I think the very sage advice given by the pure venture capitalists here. One thing I would say is that, you know, have a look, search LinkedIn, use the AI tools recommended for some scenarios of exit values. I saw an interesting post the other day from a serial angel investor of how, you know, what he thought might be a good result had ended up in an $8,300 check on a $20,000 angel investment after 5 years. And that all just comes down to how followers, angels, can often be diluted overly, but also as founders. So one of the key objectives, I think, just as a life lesson, as a learning, is if you are setting up this business, ask yourself, what does a good, a moderate, and an outstanding outcome look like in terms of a pound-dollar number that you would like to achieve? And then, sort of do some reverse engineering and go from there and say, well, if I work on this business for 5 years, would I be happy if I walked away with $1 million? Would I be happy if I walked away with 5 million? Or am I really aiming for, a 50, 100, whatever million personal exit? And what does dilution do to that? And you can literally game that through some financial calculation and work it out for yourself. And that will give you the basis of a valuation point. But you are always going to be slightly led by the investor. And this comes down to the eternal thing, which is, as a founder, you can always say no. So don't be afraid to say, sorry, those terms just don't work for me, and see what, if the investors are super keen to invest in you, there will be a basis for negotiation.
Very good points. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I've just realized, and I didn't know that was happening, because we are over the hour, we've now been moved to the green room. We've lost the live people here on Microsoft Teams, but we are live on the live streams. So with that, I'm sorry I've kept you 3 minutes over the line. Do you want to leave, or have you got any quick parting words? Let's start with Edward, Oscar, and then Rob. If you do, if you don't, that's okay too. Edward?
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having us. I think just that last on the kind of parting words when we're talking about term sheets, I would say is that term sheets and legal documents for investment are not mobile phone contracts. So make sure you understand absolutely everything that you're signing up to, because it's all negotiable generally, and it's some of it's standard and some of it's not. But yeah, no, thanks for having us, and look forward to doing it again.
Thank you very much, Edward. Oscar?
Very good advice from Edward on the negotiation of every single point, because you really can do that. My final point would be just more generically on venture capital funding. And I would say, having now done this for a few years, very clearly venture capital funding is not for everybody. And in fact, the majority of startups do not suit venture capital funding. Venture capitalists are looking for that 10x. They're looking for a hockey stick curve in terms of growth. Most startups will not offer that, will not get close to offering that. And as a result of partnering with a venture capitalist, you are giving away a lot of control, a lot of dilution. You are going to bend over backwards at time to report data on tedious terms, to comply with all sorts of reporting standards. These are going to be a nightmare for most founders. So only take VC money if it really, really suits you. And where it can be beneficial is if you want to raise not the easy money, 5, 10 million. If you need to go raise 30, 40, 50 million, a strong VC can introduce you to growth investors, to big US players who can raise the big amounts of money. But really think and focus. If you're happy to build a little business and look at cash and build it sensibly every year, venture capital money is not for you. So I really would think about that before you go and spend hours making these decks and hours harassing people like me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And last but not least, Rob, please.
Yeah, all great points. I mean, I think just coming to the point around not only who you raise money from, but also who you partner with, be it your co-founder, your customers, your clients. This is a team game. You need to have on your team the investor that you want to work with. You need to have on your team a co-founder that you are aligned with and want to work with. And you need to have customers and partners across industries and sectors who you enjoy doing business with. So take your time. Don't rush into it if you're very early stage. Round all that out, and do set yourself some realistic smart goals as to what your suggested outcome should be. And when you get the knockbacks, don't lose the will to live. Keep going. There are plenty of people who are incredibly successful investors, incredibly successful serial founders who have failed and failed and failed again. And so they've only learned from those. And go and seek those people out and ask for their advice.
Thank you very much to all three of you. I'm going to break with tradition because I normally have a different part in words, but three things worth mentioning. Number one, they used to say when going for a loan, the best way to get it is to prove to the bank manager that you don't actually need it. Now, imagine going to ask somebody for money that you're not even liable to pay back for yourself, like yourself directly. That's two. And three, one thing I've noticed about startups is that they tend to fail because somebody eventually gives up. So don't. Thank you very much. Huge thanks to our panelists, those of you that tuned in via the live streams, and obviously those of you that were here and asked questions. Tomorrow, we've got, I think, 4 brilliant lawyers on covering different fields for Startup Legal UK, that is, by the way, Q&A. So hopefully you'll join us. But otherwise, RSVP via startup-to-scaleup.club and join our WhatsApp community too. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye for now.